The Rebbe is about to begin the fourth lesson on the Petikha. Good evening to everybody. I'm happy to be with you in the lesson of the Petikha L'Chokhmat Kabbalah. We're beginning with number 4. The need for the desire to receive to progress through the 4 stages of Atzilut, Bria, Tziran, Asiya. The progression of the desire to receive from the desire to give goodness to creation through the 4 spiritual worlds. So God can do anything, could have done it all at once. Why does it need to go through the 4 spiritual worlds, the 4 stages? Answer: this is because there's a general principle with the light and the vessels. The shining of the light and its disappearing makes the vessel fitting for its purpose. Meaning, as long as the vessels never once become separated from the light, it's included with the light, and is nullified to the light like a candle before a large fire. And this is not good. If the light nullifies the vessel, it means there's no one to receive the light. The idea of this nullification is because there's an opposites between them that is as distant as could be. Because the light is divine goodness that flows from God directly. The light is divine power, divine force. And in the aspect of God's thought of creation, and God's thought to give goodness to creation, called Ein Sof, it's only to give. From the aspect of God's thought to give goodness to creation, that the thought is called Ein Sof, the light is only to give, only giving. It has no aspect of desire to receive at all. And the opposite of this is the vessel, which is the great desire to receive the goodness. That is the whole root of the created being, what was newly created, and has no aspect of giving within it at all. So there are 2 completely opposite characteristics. The light only wants to give, and the vessel is only wanting to receive. So therefore they're opposites. And therefore, when they come together, the light and the vessel, the desire to receive is nullified in its light. This is not good. Because if the desire to receive is nullified, it means there isn't there a reception. So therefore what? Therefore we need the way of find to fix this. And the vessel can't become set unless the light disappears from it once. Because after the light disappears from it, it begins to yearn after it. And this yearning and desire sets the desire to receive in its fitting form. And after this, when the light returns, now it's considered there's two separate things, light and vessel. And pay attention to this, put here your eyes, because it's the deepest of the deep. So the Baal Islam is explaining why the light has to go through these 4 stages. Because the shining of the light and its disappearing, going away, is what makes the vessel fitting to receive the light. So the Baal Islam is telling us here that since the light and vessel are opposite one to another, therefore the light is nullifying the vessel. Therefore there needs the concept of the light disappearing from the vessel, and then the vessel is yearning very much after the light, and this yearning sets the form of the vessel in the way that even though the light afterwards will come and be enclosed in the vessel, it won't be nullified by it. What is the meaning that the light nullifies the vessel? This whole point of the light disappearing from the vessel, so the vessel is yearning after it. And afterwards, the vessel doesn't become nullified when the light returns in it. What is all this about? I'll give an example. The example is a simple example. A person is yearning to eat, they're hungry. Afterwards, when the person eats, after the person eats, then the food puts out their hunger, satisfies their hunger. Or a spiritual example. A person is not believing in God, or believes in God but doesn't believe that God is only good in giving. In the time when the divine light shines in that person, then it nullifies all of the person's disbelief. The disbelief is the vessel to experience the divine light. When the light of God is clothed within the vessel of the disbelief, then it nullifies the disbelief. The person no longer doesn't believe in God. The person feels God. The person no longer disbelieves that God is good and giving goodness, because the person feels God's goodness. So we find that the light that clothes within the vessel nullifies the vessel. But in order for the person to experience the light in a necessary way, they need to feel the lack, because the benefit of the light is within the darkness. So if the darkness would become nullified, then the person wouldn't feel the advantage of the light. So what needs to be done? Here it's written that the light disappears from the vessel. After the light disappears, then there's a situation of yearning for the light. Then even though the light will afterwards return to become clothed in the vessel, it no longer nullifies the vessel. We can depict to ourselves this example, that the light of God is clothed within the vessel of a person's disbelief in God. In the first state, the person has a great pleasure from this, but afterwards the pleasure becomes less and less. For example, a person that was not religious and went through what a person went through, then the light of God shines in them, and the person feels a great pleasure. That happens to a lot of people that become religious. It shines to them the light of God greatly, with great pleasure, but after time it goes away, and the person finds themselves once again in darkness. What's the reason? So this is the progression that's described here. The shining of the light and its going away is what causes the vessel to experience the light. The light comes into the vessel and goes away from it. And then even when the light returns to the vessel, it no longer nullifies the vessel, which is to say that the same person who became religious and had the great pleasure, when that pleasure goes away, the person enters into a state of depression, and then the person once again has thoughts of disbelief. And if the person doesn't run away, but continues to be connected to the Torah, then the light that afterwards shines in the person doesn't nullify the vessel anymore. Why? Because the person knows and feels the suffering and the darkness in the situation that's disconnected, and therefore the light no longer nullifies the vessel. So the same thing here. In the same way, the light shines into the vessel, and the vessel attains awareness of the light. Afterwards, the light goes away, and there's a state of darkness. There's a great yearning of the vessel for the light. This yearning of the vessel for the light sets within it, within the darkness, in a way that so that even when the light afterwards shines within the darkness, it no longer nullifies the vessel. The vessel remembers the situation of the darkness. The vessel has consciousness of the situation of the darkness. Therefore, the vessel is aware of the darkness. And even though the light returns to be clothed in it, it's no longer nullified. We'll read this again. Number 4. The need of the progression of the desire to receive on these 4 aspects that are in the 4 spiritual worlds. Because we have a general principle with regards to the vessels, that the shining of the light and its going away is what makes the vessel fitting for its purpose. Meaning, because until the vessel has once become separated from the light, it is nullified to the light, like a candle before a large fire. And the idea of this nullification is because there's an opposites between them as wide as could be, as great as could be. Because the light is divine goodness coming from God directly. From the aspect of God's thought of creation in Ein Sof, which is only to give. And there's no aspect of desire to receive at all. And the opposite of this is the vessel, which is the great desire to receive the goodness, which is all the root of the created being that was newly created, and has no aspect of giving at all. And therefore they come together one in another. The desire to receive becomes nullified in its light, and is not able to find its form until after the light is removed from it one time. Because after the light is removed from it, it begins to yearn after the light. And this yearning sets in the vessel the form of the desire to receive as is fitting. And then when the light comes and returns in it, they are now considered 2 separate things. Light and vessel, the body and the life of life. So in this example we gave, a person that has thoughts of disbelief, and the light of God is dressed within these thoughts, then it fills the vessel, because the disbelief is the vessel for the light of God. If this person doesn't remember, doesn't have in his consciousness the thoughts of the disbelief, then the light will nullify the vessel. And if the light nullifies the vessel, so the light itself is not felt. Because it is a set spiritual law that the advantage of the light is from within the darkness. So there's the idea of remembering, that the vessel needs to remember in the consciousness of the vessel the state of the lacking, and then the light will no longer be able to nullify it. The complete situation is when there's light dressed in the vessel, but it doesn't nullify the vessel. On one side, we have the pleasure in the vessel, in having the light. On the other side, on the other hand, the vessel still remembers its feeling of when it was in darkness. And this feeling doesn't give the vessel to be nullified to the light. And these 2 opposites can be at one time. On one hand, the light needs to give pleasure to the vessel, and on the other hand, the vessel needs to still remember the state when it was in darkness. Number 5. Are these matters clear, or are there questions? The Rebbe is taking a question. The question to the Rebbe is, it says in the verse from the prophets that on that day, the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, meaning that the vessel will be filled with the light. Does that mean that the light will nullify the vessel? The Rebbe says no, because the vessel has behind it, in its subconscious, the 6,000 years of lacking. And this lack is felt in the vessel. And therefore, the light will shine in the vessel, but the vessel will not be nullified to the light. Rebbe's taking another question. Do the 10 sfirot come from the vessel or from the light? The Rebbe answers, there's no changes in the light. The changes are only in terms of the vessel. Another question, if a person's in darkness, how do they know that this is part of the process of their spiritual development, becoming spiritually refined? The Rebbe answers, they can know because everything is coming from God, and everything God is doing is only for the good of the person, in order to bring a person close. So from this we know that every darkness is part of the process of us coming closer, being brought closer. We learn from this that any time that a person merits to experience light according to their level, so a person needs to give thanks to God, and together with the thanks of thanking God for everything, together with this, a person also needs to remember the low situations that they previously had, all of their spiritual descents, in order that they can experience the light in a good way. Because otherwise, if a person doesn't remember the situations of darkness, they're not able to feel the light, and the light nullifies the vessel. And then it's like a person cutting off the branch that they're sitting on. If the light is nullifying the vessel, then the person no longer feels the light. In order for the light to be felt, we need a vessel. Everything we're speaking about here, all that Kabbalah is talking about, is only relative to the feeling of the vessel. The light itself never changes. In God itself, there's no changing, because all the changes allude to lack, and in God there's no lack. So changes aren't relevant to the upper light. All the sfirot that we're learning about, all these different spiritual states, they're all subjective concepts that relate to the vessel, that relate to how the vessel is feeling the light. It all depends on the situation, the state of the vessel. Another question. So it sounds like all the vessels once experienced the light left, and now we're yearning for the light. And the Rebbe says this is correct. All of us, men and women, in our source, we're all part of God. Part of God means we are part of the divine reality of the upper light. Afterwards, this vessel progresses through all the worlds as we learned about. It descends, the desire to receive becomes bigger, and then the light becomes smaller, until we reach the situation of this world, where the desire to receive is maximum and the light is minimum. God is no longer felt by us. This is called hiddenness. But what is the reality of hiddenness? Not that there's any change in the light. There's no change in the upper light. But all these changes are in the vessel. Pay attention to this. In the first situation, in the thought of God to give goodness to creation, Ein Sof, where all of us exist, included in this thought of God to give goodness to creation, we receive all of the light according to its full capacity. And then where's the changes? In the vessel. So when the changes are made in the vessel, then the consciousness of the vessel of the upper light is minimized. The more that the vessel wants more to receive, it less is able to feel the light, because there's an opposite of characteristics between the vessel and the light. Because the light is only coming from the place of giving and love, and the vessel is going on to receive until the vessel reaches this world. What is this world? This world means that the vessel is in a state of the maximum desire to receive, and therefore its feeling of the light is minimum. And this is called hiddenness. But the hiddenness is not in the light. The light remains the same thing exactly. The same God that surrounds and includes all of reality, is the same God that's shining in us, and giving us life. As it's written, you give life to all. But we're not able to feel this, and that's called hiddenness. There's hiddenness, there's what's called hiddenness within hiddenness, double hiddenness. But it's all talking about the situation of the vessel. We don't have to make any efforts with regards to the light. We don't have to convince the light anything. We don't have to convince God to give to us. All the work is only on ourselves. In two aspects. The aspect of belief, that is an aspect of giving in our minds, and then working on the desire to give of our heart. So therefore, since in our source every man and woman is part of the divine light, this is called in the language of Kabbalah the point of holiness that is found in the soul of every man and woman. This point gives us a grasping, a connection with God, and creates within us a yearning for God.